I just wanted to touch on the rise to prominence in terms of furniture design of the Italians.
Oh yeah.
What makes Italians good at design?
Okay. There's a lot to it. Just before the Second World War, Mussolini, who was a fascist dictator and generally a bad person, he was responsible for enacting a particular type of business model called an SRL, which essentially enabled small businesses, artistic businesses, some tax concessions.
Yes.
Okay, and so these artisans now could generate a living. So people that were making tin pots or weaving chairs could really devote their time to that and make a business out of it and make a living. So that then was stalled, I suppose, because of the war. But then after the war, when people needed chairs, pots, coffee pots, and all that sort of thing, lights, all these artisans came out and started doing things. So you've got this desire to make, okay, and an incentive to make and sell, so commercialization. Add that to the cultural richness of this nation that has a history of being creative and artistic, and add that to the entrepreneurial spirit.
Sure.
And you've got this blend that is quite unique, and also the rebirth of post-Second World War. The renewal of the country. That allowed for creatives to be creative, but also the entrepreneurs to say, yeah, okay, let's do it. When Castiglione designed the tractor chair in '62, okay, that the entrepreneurs of Zanata, you got to take your hat off to them. To commercialize a product like that really takes guts, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see elsewhere, and you only saw it in Italy, and that's replicated across all the product typologies right across Italy. And so from there, then supplying to their local community, their local market, expanded to providing products to Europe more globally, which meant they grew.
And those companies, they should be celebrated, shouldn't they? Because
Absolutely.
These days, everyone's worried about risk.
Yeah.
And they're worried about the bottom line. As you say, it takes a lot of guts to look at a design straight out of left field and yet still have the conviction to support something like that.
Yeah. It's unique because the one thing that I learned quickly in Italy was that these companies don't actually have marketing departments. It's the entrepreneur, and the designer, and together they formulate a strategy and they take the risk. The entrepreneur takes the financial risk, and a lot of times these risks, they fail. Some of these products don't go anywhere, but of course a lot of them do succeed, and the rest
because
is history.
these companies are the patrons of our day, like just as the Medicis were.
Absolutely.
Back in the Renaissance. It's a similar sort of model, isn't it?
Absolutely. But there is that important connection between a creative and an entrepreneur that wants to sort of, be at the cutting edge.
So going back to the question about why Italians are so good at design or have this amazing history, any other factors?
I think there are. I think there's this sense. It's a sensibility and a desire for quality. And if you think about also their cuisine, okay, so food is really important to the Italians.
Right.
And eating at a table.
Yeah, so they're very sensual.
Yeah, and so, it's just not any food, it's particular food. They can talk about the origin, the quality, the olive oil, the cheese, the meat, what have you. To be able to do that, you need to sit on something, you need to put your plate on something, the plate needs to be there, the knife and fork needs to be there, the glass needs to be there. All these support elements need to be there to facilitate that. And where they see quality in their food, quality of the olive oil, the quality of the cheese, what have you, the quality of the pasta, they'll look for quality in their garments, in the objects they put in their homes, or in
The Italians are so expressive, so you see that in the things that they manufacture and produce.
They're more vocal, they're more outgoing,
Yep.
they're more expressive, absolutely. So they're not shy in that sense. Well, of course, we're being extremely general here, but I think It's safe to say, and so that's replicated. You know, if you're in a creative industry or a manufacturing industry, you know, that's coming out in what you do as well.
The Italians are so good at manufacturing, particularly their injection moulding of plastics. How do they do it? Like, how did such a small country become so good at manufacturing things?
Yeah, I know. I can feel your passion. Even for injection moulding, you think, you know, anyone can injection mold. Well, no, you can't.
No.
Okay, and it's like anything. All right.
It's a real art.
It's an art. Okay, whatever you do, you try and do it to the best of your capabilities, and that's what they try and do. It's like, you know, they just want to excel at whatever they do, and if that's making a tool for an injection molded part, they're going to make it really well. Okay, if it's you know, the machine that makes the tool to make the injection molded part, they're going to make that machine, you know, really well. And in fact, they're, you know, famous for their machines, their tool making machines. And so it's this approach to wanting to do a good job, you know, wanting to be careful and wanting to do it right. And so all of these companies had very humble beginnings, small shops making one at a time, okay? And then as this, you know, tax support came through, they could make a living and grow. By adopting all of these sort of quality, creative, pursuit of excellence, they can compete. Okay, so the other thing to note here is that these companies still exist in a context that is rife with, you know, copies. Okay, and so to be able to compete and survive in that environment is also saying, you know, that design is important, a pursuit of excellence is important, because if you can do that, you can survive.